Hi there, everyone. My name is Chris Hoffman, and I am a senior admission counselor with the University of Minnesota and their Northeast Regional Coordinator. I'm also a NJAC AC Executive Board member, a college representative, and after about 6 years, now in my seventh year of college admission counseling, I just wanted to chat with you a little bit today about kind of what happens now, a little bit about life post recruitment travel and what that looks like. So, going to share a little bit about kind of some strategies. Not going to be a long video, maybe 10, 15 minutes or so, but a little bit about kind of what happens now. This big emotional letdown post travel and what that looks like for us on the college side. So, in my experience, the very first thing that you want to do while the travel season is still fresh in your brain is do some wrap up and reflections from the travel season itself, kind of looking at what went well and maybe what didn't go so well. There are countless stories of us on the road who have kind of been thrust into this role very quickly with very minimal training. I think back to 2019, which was my first full season traveling out of state. And I had all of about 5 days of training in the office, and then got on a plane to Texas and Georgia for 2 months. And so a lot of this comes at you very quickly. Um, and so you want to now digest all that information while it is still on your brain. You can breathe a little bit. So keep copious notes. What do you think was really successful with your travel schedule and travel season itself? Were there certain fairs that really went well, 100% you want to go back to next year? Are there other events that you think, it was good to do this and get the experience, but I don't think I'm going to go back to that particular fair or that part of the state or that part of my territory next year? Really kind of dig into the data, but also don't be afraid to trust your gut feeling. If data shows one thing, but you trust your gut in a different direction, maybe you didn't see a whole lot of students at one particular school, but you know a little bit more about why that happened. Don't be afraid to mention that in your sort of wrap up as you take notes for the next year. It's a lot easier to remember right now than it will be in July of 2024 as you're planning for next fall travel. All right. The next thing you want to think about is kind of what factors you're able to control, what factors you can't control. So right now, as I'm recording this video, one of the factors that I can't control, my upstairs neighbor being a little bit loud, kind of coming through on the microphone a little bit. I think some of us who have been in this for a while think back to the days of recruiting over Zoom, taking those Zoom meetings. But all those little things that are sort of out of control as you're thinking about what went well and what didn't go so well. Were they things that you were able to control, or things that it just kind of is what it is, and you have to roll with the punches a little bit? Do you actually like how you set up your schedule? Some of us come into this role and the schedule is made for us and we just sort of slot into it. Others of us are setting up the schedule ourselves, and we don't actually like the way that we set that up. Some of us are gung ho to do those 7:30, 7:45 a.m. visits. Some of us cannot possibly do a visit before 9 o'clock, 9:15. So it's about knowing yourself. What did you like about your schedule? And being honest with yourself. Can you set it up in a different way next year that will still be successful? And what does that look like? Uh, Talking a little bit more about what did you like or not like. For those of you who travel a little bit further from home and you stay in hotels, I'm sure that you have some preferences for properties that you really enjoy, properties that you don't enjoy so much. With budget constraints and whatnot, were there any hotels that you want to make a note of to not reserve in the future for safety reasons? Or maybe you learned as a matter of convenience that on a map, a certain hotel looks like it's super close to a high school, but you have to drive on, Route 287 during the 8 o'clock hour, and what should be a 15-minute drive takes you about 45 minutes. So be realistic and be honest with yourself about your travel preferences as well. And then looking at your schedule with that too. Do you like traveling to certain parts of the state or certain parts of your territory at certain times? Or would you make changes to that in the future, learning what you did during this travel season from those who recruited before, what their experiences have been, etc. All of that plays into the changes that you will make for the next year. Again, it's a lot easier to make notes of all of these things now than it is to try to make notes of these next summer as you're simultaneously trying to book on rep visits and figure out what counties you will be in when. So take good copious notes of that process now. This is also a little soapbox moment if you're anything like me, and some of the housekeeping items can be a little bit pushed aside from time to time. Do not forget any outstanding expense reports. You want to make sure that you're accounting for every dime, whether it is on a P card or travel card or on your personal card that you are getting reimbursed for. So don't forget to fill those out and submit those to your accounts payable office. So kind of the next piece from here, we're talking about what comes next, and that really is sort of at the crux of this conversation. And again, depending on when you started in the cycle, there are some of you, this is your first travel season and you started in early August. Some of you might have started maybe back in May or in, even mid-year last year. So this is your first full travel season. Regardless, it's always a good idea to check in with some of the more experienced team members in your office and your team who have been through this process and this transition period before. My first travel season, I came off the road and I just had a kind of a moment in my office where I sat there and said, okay, what now? And so, check in with those older staff members, really get an idea of like what a day in a life kind of looks like. I found what's helpful for me is transitioning into this period where I'm sort of setting my own schedule throughout the day and readjusting. I'm not following, go to Plainfield High School now and then go to Piscataway and then go to Edison. I'm very much, kind of in control of my schedule around meetings and whatnot. Um, I find that it's helpful to keep a list on my desk of sort of daily and weekly tasks that need to be done for my job. So I know daily I need to make sure that I am cleaning out my email inbox, reaching out to certain pockets of students, etc. Weekly, I am cleaning my application queue. I am doing a certain amount of XYZ, and making sure that you sort of build that into your routine as you go. But it's good to know what the expectations are now rather than finding out in sort of punitive fashion weeks or months from now that you're not meeting those expectations. And this way you're being proactive rather than reactive. To that end, set up your office space, whether that is in a physical office on campus or your home office for those of us who are regional. Set it up in a way that makes sense for you. So I'm very much someone, I cannot have my desk in my bedroom. I will crawl back into bed and try to answer emails from there. And then at night, I will not be able to sleep well because I see the desk and I will just be thinking about work the entire time. And then when I was in the office as well, depending on where I kept certain things in my office or my desk, depending on which way I was facing, if I was looking out a window or whatnot, I had to take the time to actually set up my office in a way that made sense for me. Again, having those little kind of sticky note reminders, laminated sheets of daily, weekly, monthly tasks, etc. Setting yourself up for success instead of trying to kind of cover your bases in a sort of hectic fashion. The other big thing, and this is a big thing, is something that I've definitely become more of an advocate for over recent years, is protecting your time and your mental space. So we are now transitioning from a period where we are just constantly go, 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 and students are always reaching out to us, and we're trying to answer emails quickly in between visits and college fairs and whatnot. And our time really is not our own. We even have a lot of, weekend fairs and events and open houses and whatnot. And so the time really doesn't belong to us. A lot of time it belongs to this job. We're now entering a space where we're a lot more 9 to 5. And so I want you all, as you are transitioning to this period and growing in your professional careers, to start setting yourself up for the expectation of protecting that time and your mental space. You are working to live, you are not living to work. And so you will never regret, not getting, reading 5 more applications in one day. But you don't want to regret potentially missing out on something in your personal life because, you wanted to just be that shining star going above and beyond all the time with your team. All right. With that, as you are protecting your space and you are, thinking about your own growth, sort of short term and long term, you also want to take these experiences from this travel season, both what you actually experienced, but also what you learned professionally and about yourself. And you want to map that to your short and your long term strategies. So understanding, I had 7 students in this visit. That's great. What does that mean? Where do I go from that? What do I do with that data? Again, that's something that you want to check in with some more experienced team members to see what that actually looks like, taking that data and making action plans based off of that. Travel season does not exist in a vacuum. It is part of the overall year-long cycle. So now it's a matter of what you do with those experiences. And again, you really want to establish a routine as much as possible. Um, Google calendars or Outlook calendars, whatever platform you use, are not just there for reminders. They can be a super powerful tool to help you really kind of maximize your time so that you are 9 to 5 and you're not constantly having to play catch up after hours. So every morning I block off about a half hour to 45 minutes. It's me, my coffee, and my inboxes, clearing those out. From there, I'll go into doing some application review. From there, I might go into some proactive outreach with different populations of students. Of course, working around meetings and other obligations on the calendar. But you are in control of your calendar now rather than letting your calendar control you. That goes for your personal life as well. For those of us that are going from, maybe one day you're having to wake up at 5:45 to drive 2 hours to start your travel that day. The next day you only have to wake up at 8:30 for a 9:30 visit. Now you have the opportunity to really get into a good routine, with your sleep schedule, with your work schedule, with planning things. And some people are really empowered by that routine and that regularity. I know that I am. You really need to think about how you are maintaining and building these relationships. I think that for a lot of us that are social creatures, travel season is awesome because we're constantly seeing faces, friends that we've made on the road. Certainly there's a point where you say, I don't want to talk to another 16-year-old. I don't want to get another question about, how our psychology program is. But the relationships that you build on the road can often lead to lifelong friendships. And so professionally, what the relationships kind of look like and what you want to think about is who did you really connect with on the road? That can be other college counselors. It can be counselors on the high school side, friendships that you've made. It can be IUCs or independent consultants that you've met on the road or gotten emails from. You want to think about kind of now that you're not going to see them face to face week in and week out, how do you maintain those relationships? Number one, for the personal side of things, because some of my best friends, I would actually argue almost all of my best friends, are folks that I've met through this industry and through my offices. They are going to be, people that I call, brothers and sisters, down the line. But part of that has come from not just seeing them during travel seasons. It's come from not constantly, sending them a check-in text every so often, FaceTiming them, even just like sitting in silence with them on Zoom from time to time, and having little application reading parties. That has been really, really beneficial and enriching to our relationships. So then the next time you see them on the road, it's like no time has passed at all. You also learn a lot from them. Their office might be doing something completely differently than yours. And I've adopted some of those friends that I made on the road into mentors, both on the high school and college side of things. Folks have been kind enough to take me under their wing and help me learn from them, both their successes and their mistakes and whatnot. That has helped me continue to grow into who I am today. And I want to pass that along to not quite the next generation of counselors, but sort of this new group of professionals that are still trying to figure out who they are and what they want out of this profession. So with that, maybe think about who you would like to connect with professionally. Maybe there's a counselor that you constantly lock eyes with, and they just really seem like they have their stuff together. They are posting constantly in the NJACAC Facebook group, and you would love to reach out to them. Maybe send them a Facebook friend request, start chatting with them, and learning from them as you go. It's not weird to do that. If you feel better about it, shoot them a LinkedIn message, connect with them there, and really sort of build those relationships in between travel seasons. You want to have people that you can turn to when you have questions. They're not there to train you. Of course, your supervisor and your team are there to train you. But when you do have general questions about sort of the profession and your career and some big picture stuff like that, it can be great to have those connections. On the personal side, again, if you're kind of like me, there might be some friendships or relationships that maybe suffered a little bit during the travel season. I know some of my best friends, like I mentioned, come from an admissions and a higher ed background. And so fortunately, they understand that this time of year, If they want to make plans with me, they have to send me a Google Calendar invite at least 4 weeks in advance, um, just because of the craziness of travel season. And so fortunately, those friends sort of get it. Now is the time for us to reconnect. There are others that I always have to be a little bit more proactive with and tell them, if you don't hear from me from September 1st to November 15th, do not take it personally. I still love you. I still very much care about you. But work kind of is my life for those 2 months. So really think about the relationships that are the most fulfilling to you. Anyone that you haven't really talked to, even if you can't make plans with them, during the craziness of the holiday season, just shoot them a quick FaceTime or a text and let them know that you care about them. Because again, those personal relationships exist and should take priority over work relationships because again, we work to live, we don't live to work. So I chatted about it a little bit earlier, but I want you to be cognizant about protecting your time. So a lot of times on the road, we are working 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. or other crazy hours like that. We're working Saturdays, we're working Sundays. We don't really get a break those afternoons in between the last high school visit and your evening college fair. You are doing outreach to students. You are connecting with your family members and whatnot that have questions, maybe reading applications. Now we are settling into more of a 9 to 5 sort of schedule, or 8:30 to 4:30, or what have you with your office. Your time is yours. So this time of year does not involve those crazy hours. So make sure that you protect your time. I especially remember being a new, early 20s young professional, freshly graduated, um, and I wasn't the best about protecting my own time. And sort of setting that expectation that my time outside of work is my time, and I do not exist to answer emails as soon as I get them at 8 or 9 p.m. So make sure that you are setting that expectation. If you have left the office for the day, unless something is on fire, you are not reachable. And very rarely in our world, in our industry, is something on fire. Okay. Uh, Conversely, if you are out of office, you are on vacation time, flex time, comp time, anything like that, you want to make sure that you are setting the expectation that that time is yours and that you cannot be reached during those times. So use this transitionary period as kind of hard reset to set that expectation and those boundaries for yourself. It can be super uncomfortable, but if you ever find yourself in a position where you feel like your boundaries are being violated in a professional manner, there are those of us that have been working through NJACAC for years, have had these uncomfortable conversations. I speak for a number of my colleagues when I say that we would be happy to sort of coach you in having those conversations and protecting your space and your time. Okay. Speaking of comp time and flex time, if you have accrued it, use it. I think there's a little bit of a misconception in our industry that vacation time, flex time, comp time can really only be taken over the summer between May 1st and September 1st, and I'm here to tell you that that is not true. Um, I'm fortunate enough to be in an office where our director really emphasizes the fact that we can and should be using flex time throughout the fall travel season, especially those weeks where you find yourself going 2 weeks straight. Maybe you have an open house and a Sunday fair taking up your weekend. Use that flex time that you have earned to give yourself a break and just step away from work, turn off your phone, don't check your email, and give that time to reset. We're going into a season of a lot of application reading for most of us. So make sure that you have a break, a day that, maybe you take a no screen day and you are reading a book or doing some yoga and you're not looking at your computer screen, your phone screen, your TV screen, any of those. Again, just kind of protecting your space and your time. And you really want to check in with yourself. So as much as you are having conversations about, checking in with your supervisors and your team members and everything, you want to make sure that you are checking in with yourself through this process as well. And what that means is a couple of things. So first of all, do you actually enjoy the work that you are doing? Did you like this travel season? And what would you do differently? Do you have the power to do it differently? Do you feel empowered to do that in your work? Maybe what do you want more of? Is there a certain part of your job so far that you really enjoy that you want to dive into more? And are you able to work with your supervisor to make that a reality? There's kind of a funny line in this industry that we talk about 3 months, 3 years, 3 decades, which alludes to the fact that a lot of those of us in the industry stick around in higher ed or in admissions in particular, either 3 months or 3 years or 3 decades. So if you weren't completely, scared off by the craziness of travel season, maybe you'll stick around for 3 years. Maybe you really love this work and you see yourself growing and ultimately supervising a team. You might find yourself in the position of being around for 3 decades in this work. But also, what does that growth look like? Now, you don't have to know this immediately, especially if you just started right before travel season. That might be a question that you want to keep in the back of your mind going into next summer as you're wrapping up your first full cycle. But you do kind of want to think a little bit more long term. Don't put the pressure on yourself to know exactly what you want in the big picture, but do kind of think about, where do I go from here? Do I enjoy the growth that I've seen so far? Do I like the sides of me that travel season has brought out? Or are there things that I would like to change? What some of your goals look like, either for the next month of your profession, maybe the next 6 months, your next travel season. Do you want to transition from that role of being sort of the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed new counselor that doesn't really know what they're doing into now being a mentor to a younger counselor and really sort of helping shape their experience and get the most out of their time? Um, and also think about, as you're checking in with yourself, what are some of the hobbies or experiences that maybe you've been neglecting because of the craziness and the hectic nature of travel season? I'm very much someone who I love sleeping in my own bed at this time. Enough hotel points have accumulated and I'm tired of those. And I just want to sleep in my own bed when I get home from a long week or 2 week stint of travel. I will just sit down and start playing my Nintendo Switch until I fall asleep. I don't have a lot of energy for my other hobbies, but now I'm kind of reinvigorated, and I'm ready to do some things like make music again and read some of the books that I've been putting off for a while. And, go hiking at some of these spaces outdoors that I haven't been able to get to. So think about what that looks like and how you would enjoy doing that. And the last thing that you want to think about as you check in with yourself is, do you have a mentor that you feel comfortable going to as you have questions or needs, or maybe a little bit of self-doubt? I think a lot of us in admissions have a bit of a sense of imposter syndrome, and it's due to a number of different things, but one of the biggest things is that very, very few people know during college, as they're picking their major and whatnot, that they want to work in higher education, they want to work in admissions. And so when you don't have, higher ed, 327 as a course your senior year, you feel like you don't have, the hands-on job training a lot of times. And so there's not sort of that validation and those reference points to check in on that make you feel like you are doing a good job. So, checking in with a mentor, someone who's been doing this for a while, someone that you look up to and that you feel comfortable speaking to, can really help validate a lot of the things that you are feeling, kind of kick some of that imposter syndrome to the curb, and maybe point out some growth areas for you to think about in this next point of the cycle and through the rest of the year, or maybe some things that you didn't even realize that you were absolutely knocking out of the park. Through this process, we do want you to know that you are not alone. All the things that you are feeling and experiencing, you are not alone in any of that process. We at NJACAC really want to support you as best as we possibly can. And to that end, many of you have signed up to receive a mentor, someone that you can work with and talk to, and sort of bounce ideas and feedback off of, get feedback from. But we really want to see you grow. Our professional organization, exists for a number of reasons, but one of the core tenets of it is helping you grow, not just be better at, making your numbers in your freshman class, but helping you progress through your career, and really just feel like you are sort of in charge of your career, of your destiny, and what that trajectory looks like. And so having a mentor, someone that you can talk with freely, is one of the best things that you can do, in my opinion. And we want to provide that resource to you. So if you reach out to mentorship at njacac.org and work with Dr. Nikki Mendrinos, we will set you up with a mentor, someone that you can go to, get that feedback from, and just have those honest, candid conversations. On a personal side, if there's anything that I can do to support you, I do not claim to be the most knowledgeable in this industry or anything, but I feel like I've had a number of experiences and been blessed with mentors in my career that have helped empower me to grow to the point that I am at now. I would love to pass that along to you if you need. So don't hesitate to reach out to me at cnhoff@umn.edu. Anything that I can do for you, I'm more than happy to do. With that, well, thank you for your time. I know we said it was going to be probably 10 to 15 minutes. We're looking at more than 25 right now. So many things that we could talk about with this conversation. The biggest thing, know that you have the support to really make your career and your experience what you want it to be. All right. Get involved with NJACAC, get that mentorship figure, and enjoy this holiday season and this transitionary period, and all that comes with it. Thanks so much, and take care.